Straight punches, beat, looping punches. This is one of the greatest examples of it. Wow, man. Kamaru Usman knocks out Jorge Masvidal in the second round. He becomes the first man ever to knock out Masvidal in his entire professional career. But not only that, he outstruck Masvidal and made it look very easy. A lot of people believed that Masvidal was going to be one of Usman's toughest challenges, but it turned out to be his easiest challenge ever since he became champion. We're talking about easier than Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington, even Damian Maia, Tyron Woodley. And it's not because Masvidal is a lesser opponent. It's because Usman is getting better at a rapid pace. Before he was training at the same gym, but now training with Trevor Whitman, going into a new camp, he is developing new skills that he probably wouldn't have learned in his old gym. He needed to move around in order to learn new stuff from a different perspective. That is why he outstruck Masvidal. He picked out a weakness, and this is how he did it. Notice in the entire fight what Usman was doing and how Masvidal was reacting. Usman had two big weapons in the fight, the jab and the right straight. The simplest punches a person can throw. The basics of all basics. Whenever he threw the jab, you see Jorge always attempt to parry it with his right hand, and he brings down his left hand in order to swing a left hook. When you bring your left hand down like this, it creates an opening down the center, which Usman is going to use later for the right hand. So it's a right parry to knock away the jab, and ultimately as Usman is moving forward with the jab, he's going to run into a check left hook. It caught Usman a couple times, but it also got Masvidal in trouble a few times before he got knocked out for this. So notice right here, 4 minutes and 7 seconds, Usman attacks with that long jab, and look what Jorge does. Parries a jab, drops his left hand, and here comes the left hook. And he actually grazes Usman with it. It's a confident weapon that Jorge was developing for this fight, most likely, because he used it from the beginning of the first round all the way until he got knocked out for it. So Usman goes and throws another jab, and notice how Jorge parries the jab and he brings down his left hand. But you can probably already see something else about Jorge's form. Notice whenever he does this, he squares his shoulders. Look how square his body is facing Kamaru Usman. The more square your body is, the bigger the target is for Usman. And you notice whenever Usman threw the jab, he always took one big step forward every single time. And Jorge, in response, when he was reacting the way he was, he always took one big step back in order to keep that distance so he does not get connected on and Usman falls into the left hook on the retraction of his punch. The difference though with the knockout was that Usman took 2 steps forward. One stutter step to trigger Jorge's reaction, and then one big step after to capitalize and get in his distance. So after Usman saw this second reaction, he threw the jab, Jorge parried, he moved back, dropped his left hand, looking for the left hook. Usman knew by then, okay, now I got you. So Usman uses this now against Jorge. He goes forward and shows his left hand. Look at Jorge's right hand, he's looking to parry the jab, but it doesn't come out as a jab. He actually reaches out, grabs onto Jorge's right hand, and pulls himself into Jorge at a left angle, which creates more space down the center for his right hand to land. And look what Jorge does with his left hand. Brings it down, which opens up the space even more. When you bring your left hand down, you're not using it to defend yourself. And Kamaru Usman comes right down that huge open space with the right cross, as Jorge is looking to land with a left hook. Straight punch, beats, looping punch. And this is what knocked out Jorge Masvidal. He took the punch at full force, 100% power, as Usman threw his entire body behind it and fell over Jorge's body. He threw the punch so hard that he used Jorge's body to cushion himself from falling over. And Jorge took all that power on the chin. It was a very basic game plan, a very basic thing he saw out of Jorge, and that is what Usman really excels at with his boxing, the fundamentals. When he gets wild like he did at the end of the first round, he's not landing those big punches, and he gets himself to be so vulnerable. But his fundamentals have developed so much power now because of his reach, and because now he has the correct form in his punches. I've been telling everybody, his jab is one of the best in the UFC right now, and it goes with his right cross as well. There's tremendous power in the way he throws that right hand. And ultimately throughout the fight, Jorge didn't look that bad. He was landing a lot of leg kicks in which Usman never grabbed onto one of them. And that is what actually surprised me. I thought that stemming from the first fight where Usman was able to grab the leg and take Jorge to the ground immediately in the fight, he actually rarely ever attempted to grab one of the legs. And the thing on the other end is, Usman would fake going for takedowns. He would constantly feint low to get a reaction out of Jorge, but he never got a big reaction. These two guys did not really respect some of each other's weapons as much as I thought they would have. I thought the low feints would get a big reaction out of Jorge, but it barely did. Some people point this to that Jorge was a bit overconfident in the fight, in which he said he was as well. He didn't give any credit to Usman's power, and it seemed like he didn't get much credit to his wrestling as well. And even before the knockout, there was a moment where Masvidal just literally stood in front of Usman in the southpaw stance, and he wants to throw a left uppercut and just walks into a right hand that almost sits him down. I mean, it was a big right hand that landed. And with the other fact that he couldn't believe he got knocked out by Usman until he saw it on the screen, probably also creates some sort of evidence that he probably underestimated Usman in this fight. But man, I don't even think it matters that much. As I constantly said before the fight, I don't think this fight was ever going to be that close. I always thought Usman was a far superior fighter. Not necessarily a more effective striker, which surprised me, but definitely firing on a higher level than Jorge is. But throughout the fight, Usman had really good jabs, especially to the body. It's one of the most underutilized weapons in MMA. A small amount of fighters ever use a body jab, but it's such an effective weapon. It's amazing at finding distance. It's very safe, especially when you set up correctly. It's a very fast attack, and it can mix up body and head strikes on the opponent very well. A body jab to a right overhand is a very natural weapon, especially for a wrestler. Or a body jab to a takedown is a very good combination that can only be used in MMA. And as Dean Thomas said on the broadcast, it was going to play a factor later on in the fight. He was landing body shots on Masvidal, and Masvidal was breathing pretty heavy between the first and second rounds. Again, Usman's power cannot be underestimated. He was putting money in the bank with those jabs to the body, but ultimately cashed out with the big right hand to the jaw. And it was a great performance, amazing performance by Kamaru Usman. Made it look, again, very easy. And it just goes to show, Colby Covington is probably still his hardest matchup. But even as competitive as that fight is going to be, I think it's going to be less competitive than the first one, due to Kamaru's power and his better understanding of striking. And all in all, I don't see anybody beating this guy right now. Wonderboy can present an interesting problem. Gilbert Burns is always dangerous because of his power, speed, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Colby Covington is almost equal with Usman, and that's a lot of credit to his style. He's able to stop the takedowns as well as beat him at the volume striking. Not necessarily the power, at least he has something over Usman in the striking. But other than that, man, we gotta find someone new. Maybe it is Hamza Chimaev, you never know. Maybe it's someone that can out-wrestle Usman and go that direction. Nobody tries to wrestle with Usman. What if it takes that guy, the dominant wrestler with a completely different style from Chechnya, what if it takes that guy to stifle Kamaru Usman in a way he never expected? And this also goes to show, man, Kamaru Usman is the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He surpasses John Jones in my opinion. He's the #1. He's on a 14-fight win streak, which is the second most in UFC history, only behind Anderson Silva's 16 wins. He has the most wins in the welterweight division's history, and in my opinion right now, he is the 3rd greatest welterweight of all time. What he's done in this division is beyond astounding. I mean, only behind Matt Hughes at this point and GSP, and he's very close to Matt Hughes. If he wins like 2 or 3 more fights, people are going to start questioning who is the greatest welterweight of all time, either him or GSP. So this is going to be a very special 2 to 3 years because we're witnessing a very special fighter in front of our eyes. And you have to give credit to Jorge Masvidal. He took this loss like a champion, just like last time. He took the loss very well in the first fight. The guy's not only a vet of the sport, who's handled so many losses throughout his career, but even the biggest loss of his career by a flush knockout, the guy handles it all the same. So ultimately, that's the end of the breakdown, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to thumbs up, enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.